We are now rounding the bend in Latin America, and after we round that bend, we will be in the home stretch. And that bend rounding happens in the south. The southern part of South America includes Chile, Argentina, and Uruguay. Those three countries have several commonalities. Amongst them are that all three countries have a well-defined middle class. What anyone would notice going down from the United States, especially if you've traveled in other parts of Latin America, is this: that Chile, Argentina, Uruguay all have obvious middle classes. People can afford luxury items, people can travel, people have nice cars, there's clean drinking water. In addition to that, in all three countries, they have a well-educated population and high rates of literacy. They all have diverse economies, which means the primary sector, the secondary sector, and the tertiary sector are all up and functioning. They all have national healthcare systems. How about that? They all have social security systems. Do you see a commonality here? Well, there's one more. They all have historic political problems. It is Latin America after all. And these historic political problems have unfortunately held all three of these countries back from reaching their full potential. All three of these countries, Chile, Argentina, and Uruguay, all also share nation-state ideals. In different disciplines, we use the words I'm going to use in different ways. But this is a geography class, and I'm going to use this terminology in a way that a geographer would use it and define it in the way a geographer would use it and define it. If you're taking a political science class or a history class, they may very well use these terms in different ways. The hallmark of an educated person, however, is being able to take a diversity of ideals and ideas and put them together and then turn them into your own ideas. So let's go through this as a geographer would go through it. A nation is a group of people sharing a common culture and generally being attached, at least mentally, if not physically, to a particular area on Earth. Notice I said nothing about politics. Politics comes in when you have a state. A state is a political unit. In other words, you draw borders around a state, like Oklahoma, or California, or Florida, or Canada, or Argentina, or Germany. All of these are states. When you draw borders around something, you can, however, include many nations, which means diversity. In the case of all three southern countries, they all have nation-state ideals. A nation-state, in its simplest way of being defined, would be this: it's a nation with its own political unit. In other words, there's no large numbers of minorities. That doesn't mean there's no minorities. Every place has minorities, even Japan. But there's no large numbers of minorities. And the way this plays out on the ground is this: if you meet somebody who's Chilean, at the top of their list when they identify what they are is going to be Chilean. If you meet somebody who's Argentine, at the top of their list of who they are is going to be Argentine. Not that they're Spanish or they're Italian or the Ukrainian. It won't be any of that. It's going to be Argentine number one. If you meet somebody who's Uruguayan, these are actually the most nation-state people in southern South America, because Uruguayans are frequently misidentified as being Argentines, and they don't like that. And between Argentina and Uruguay, they speak the same basic version of Spanish. They argue over who created tango and who makes the best barbecue. But if you meet somebody who's Uruguayan, at the top of their list of what they are is going to be Uruguayan. If you compare that to a country with cultural pluralism, like, for example, Peru, if you ask an indigenous person in Peru what they are, at the top of their list is going to be whatever indigenous group they're from. It's not going to be Peru, because Peru is something that was created by people who entered Peru and said, here's your country. It wasn't created by the